The council chamber stretched wide and tall, built for creatures much larger than humans. Ambassador Daehyun stood at his small podium, barely visible among the towering aliens that filled the room. He had stood here many times before. He had been ignored many times before. Today would be no different. Honored council members, Daehyun began, his voice steady despite knowing what would come. I propose that humanity leads a research initiative into dark matter navigation. Our scientists have developed new theories that could... The sound started small. A chitter from the Vryn section, then a rumbling laugh from the Kethril delegates. Within seconds, the entire chamber filled with the sound of alien laughter. 800 species all laughing at the human who dared to suggest he could lead anything. Krull the Breaker stood up. He was 8 feet tall, covered in natural armor plates that could stop bullets. His species had conquered 12 worlds before joining the council. The prey species wishes to lead. His voice boomed across the chamber. Perhaps next we should let the food creatures of Theta Prime write our laws. More laughter. Always more laughter. Daehyun closed his proposal file. He had spent 6 months preparing it. He walked back to his seat in the smallest section of the chamber, the area reserved for species that ranked below position 800. Humanity sat at position 847. Dead last. He sat down and waited for the session to end, just like he had done 1,000 times before in his 15 years as ambassador. But this time someone was watching very carefully. On Earth, in the orbital command center floating above Seoul, Mi-young stared at the screen. She had watched the session live. She had seen the laughter. She had seen Daehyun's face remain calm and empty, showing nothing. She knew that face. It was the face every human wore in council spaces. The face that said, I feel nothing, when inside they felt everything. Mi-young was tired of that face. She opened a secure channel. Sunhee, are you there? The older woman's face appeared on screen. At 51, Sunhee had spent 30 years studying every species in the Galactic Council. She knew things about them they didn't know about themselves. I saw it, Sunhee said. They still don't understand. How much longer do we wait? They still haven't asked the right question. Sunhee pulled up files on her screen. Data. So much data. 30 years of watching, recording, analyzing. They measure strength. They measure psychic power. They measure inherited technology. They never ask the question that matters, which is, why did humanity survive? Sunhee's eyes gleamed. Every predator on Earth wanted us dead. We had no claws. No venom, no armor, no fangs. We were slow. We were weak. We were perfect prey. So why didn't we die? Mi-young smiled grimly. Because we were too stubborn to die. Exactly. But they don't measure stubborn. They don't measure endurance. They don't measure the ability to keep going when any sane creature would quit. They think we're weak because we can't punch through steel. They don't realize that not needing to punch through steel is its own kind of strength. On the colony of New Busan, at the far edge of human space, Junho was learning the same lesson in a different way. He was 24 years old. He had never known a time when humans were respected. He had grown up hearing stories of the great species, the mighty Vryn, the psychic Kethril, the ancient Terran with their inherited super weapons. Humanity was always mentioned last, if mentioned at all. Today, his squad was running a training exercise. 12 human soldiers, standard gear, nothing special. They were patrolling the northern sector when they encountered a Vryn unit. Thoric, the Vryn commander, saw them and laughed. Human soldiers, perfect. My warriors need practice. Let us have a combat drill. It wasn't a request. The drill was meant to be humiliating. The Vryn used only 10% of their strength. They still won easily. Junho found himself pinned to the ground 3 times. His squad couldn't touch the Vryn warriors. But Junho noticed something. When Thoric pinned him the 3rd time, Junho looked up at the massive alien's face. Thoric was breathing hard. His breath came in gasps. The exercise that had barely made Junho sweat had exhausted the Vryn warrior. After the drill ended and the Vryn left, Junho called his squad together. Did anyone else notice? Notice what? Asked Mina, his second in command. That we got destroyed? Notice that they got tired. Really tired. We're sore. They're exhausted. The squad looked at each other. Junho continued. They're stronger than us. Much stronger. But they can't maintain it. They use up all their energy fast. We could keep going for hours. He filed a report. It joined 10,000 similar reports filed by humans over the past 100 years. reports about Vrin endurance limits, reports about how Kethral psychics got overwhelmed in chaos, reports about how Toron didn't really understand their own technology, reports about how Melkari regeneration made them careless in battle. Humans had been watching. Humans had been learning. For 100 years while being laughed at, humans had been taking notes. That night, Daehyun sat alone in his quarters on the council station. Through the viewport he could see Earth, small, blue, fragile-looking, home to the species everyone dismissed. He recorded a message to his daughter. Juna, today they laughed at us again. Tomorrow they will laugh harder. But I want you to remember something your grandfather told me during the water wars. He said the quietest person in the room is often the most dangerous, not because they're planning violence, but because they're planning everything else. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We've been quiet for 100 years. We've been watching, learning, adapting. That's what humans do best. We adapt. When we can't outfight something, we outthink it. When we can't outthink it, we outlast it. When we can't outlast it, we outcooperate it. We find a way. One day they'll ask humanity to speak. They'll need us for something they can't do themselves. And on that day, daughter, I hope I'm still alive to see their faces. Because they're going to learn something about prey species. Sometimes the prey survives by becoming something the predators need more than they need another meal. He ended the recording and sent it on the slow transmission to Earth. It would take 3 days to arrive. He stared out at the stars. In the medical bay, Dr. Heejin was analyzing samples from 14 different species. She had noticed something interesting. The superior species with their long lifespans and powerful bodies had very specialized immune systems. They evolved on worlds where they were the top predators. They never had to fight diseases much. Humans evolved fighting diseases constantly. Earth was full of plagues and viruses and bacteria that wanted to kill humans. So human immune systems learned to adapt fast. Very fast. The synthetic antibodies she was developing would work on species that had never even visited Earth. The Kethral plague last year? Stopped by human medicine. The Vrin virus outbreak? Stopped by human medicine. The Melkari fungal infection? Stopped by human medicine. 3 plagues in 10 years. 3 saves. The council gave her a small medal. They called it adequate work. She smiled at the medal. It was more than any human had received in a century. Progress. Across the galaxy, thousands of humans were doing similar work. Not flashy. Not impressive, just necessary. They ran the logistics that fed 600 worlds. They trained emergency responders. They developed medicines. They coordinated supply chains. They did the boring work that powerful species didn't want to do, and slowly, quietly, without anyone noticing, humanity had become the glue holding the galaxy together. But the galaxy didn't know that yet. They still saw weak prey creatures. They still laughed. Myung ended her call with Sun-hee and looked out at Earth below. Let them laugh, she said to the empty room. Prey that survives learns patience. And we've been patient for a very long time. The knife was moving toward the galaxy's throat. No one had noticed. The weakest species was positioning itself to become the most necessary species. And when the moment came, when the galaxy finally needed humanity badly enough to listen, they would learn what 100 years of silence had built. The universe would tremble, not from fear, but from the realization that they had been wrong about everything. 10 years passed. Humanity remained at position 847, the lowest rank, the weakest species. Nothing had changed in the official records. But everything had changed beneath the surface. Taijin sat in his office on the central logistics hub, watching screens that showed supply routes across 800 worlds. He was 47 now. He had started as a simple cargo pilot 20 years ago. He had noticed something that the powerful species missed. They thought logistics was boring work. Beneath them, they wanted glory and conquest and scientific breakthroughs. They didn't want to coordinate shipping schedules. So Taijin had volunteered. He had built a small team, then a larger team, then a network. Now his Galactic Logistics Coordination Network handled 73% of all commerce between species. Food, medicine, fuel, raw materials, manufactured goods, all of it flowing through systems that humans had built and maintained. The council barely noticed. Logistics was invisible when it worked. No one thanked the people who made sure food arrived on time. But Taijin had built something more than a shipping network. He had built a map of the galaxy's needs. He knew which worlds depended on which supplies. He knew where every bottleneck existed. He knew which species would starve without shipments from other worlds. He knew which militaries needed fuel from sources they didn't control. He had created a map of the galaxy's circulatory system, and humans were the heart pumping blood through it. He never told anyone this. He just kept doing his boring, invisible work. Dr. Heejin had also been busy. At 55, she ran the largest xenomedicine program in the galaxy. The Council had let her do this because medicine was also considered boring work by warrior species and psychic civilizations. They wanted to study weapons and navigation and conquest. They didn't want to study diseases. But diseases didn't care about strength or psychic power. The Vryn could punch through walls and still die from a virus. The Kethril could read minds and still succumb to bacterial infection. Heejin had made a discovery that changed everything. Human immune systems, forced to evolve against Earth's endless diseases, adapted faster than any other species. The galaxy's powerful species had evolved on easier worlds. They had fewer diseases. Their immune systems were specialized and strong but not flexible. Human immune systems were weak but incredibly flexible. They could learn to fight almost anything. Heejin used this to develop synthetic antibodies that worked across species barriers. Last year, a plague hit the Melkari homeworld. It should have killed millions. Heejin's team stopped it in 3 weeks. The Council gave her another small medal. They called her work satisfactory. She put the medal next to the previous one and went back to work. She was now indispensable to 50 species who didn't realize they couldn't live without her. Captain Junho was 34 now. He commanded a mixed species security force on the Council station. He was the lowest-ranked commander because he was human. But he had learned things about the Council species that they didn't know about themselves. He had learned that Vryn warriors were unstoppable for 20 minutes. Then they needed 4 hours to recover. Their bodies burned energy too fast. He had learned that Kethril psychics could read emotions easily in calm situations. But in chaotic environments with too many minds, they got overwhelmed and couldn't function. He had learned that the Toran had inherited amazing weapons from an ancient civilization. But they barely understood how the weapons worked. If something broke, they often couldn't fix it. He had learned that Melkari could regenerate from almost any wound. So they had forgotten how to protect themselves. They took stupid risks because they thought they couldn't die. Junho trained his human soldiers differently. He didn't train them to be strongest. He trained them to keep going when everything went wrong. When weapons failed, when plans failed, when logic said to give up, he trained them to be stubborn. Other species mocked this. Training for failure, they called it. How very human. Junho smiled when he heard this. Yes, very human. Because humans were experts at failure. Earth's history was full of failures. Civilizations that collapsed, plagues that killed millions, wars that destroyed everything, and yet humans kept going. Kept rebuilding. Kept trying. That was the human superpower. Not strength, not intelligence, just the absolute refusal to stay down. Ambassador Hyunwoo was the new human ambassador. At 39, he had replaced Daehyun 2 years ago. He had learned everything from his mentor. How to sit quietly, how to take insults without reacting, how to wait. But now something was changing. Hyunwoo received intelligence that made his blood cold. The Vryn Dominion was preparing for war against the Kethril Collective. The reason didn't matter. Some ancient insult, some disputed territory. The kind of thing that powerful species went to war over because they could. But this time, both sides had enough weapons to shatter the Council. The Vryn had strength and numbers. The Kethril had psychic abilities and strategic position. If they went to war, they would drag the entire galaxy into it. Hyunwoo requested an emergency council session to propose mediation. His request was denied within an hour. The response was brief and insulting. Prey species do not interrupt the decisions of predators. He sat in his office and composed a message to Earth. Myung received the message in her office above Earth. She was 48 now. Director of Human Strategic Operations, she had been preparing for this moment for 18 years. She called a secret meeting. Taijin attended from his logistics hub. Dr. Heejin joined from her medical facility. Captain Junho connected from the council station. Sunhee, now 61, joined from her research center on Earth. The war is coming, Myung said without preamble. Within 6 months, the Vryn and Kethril will be fighting. Within a year, the council will fracture. They'll tear each other apart. And they'll drag everyone else down with them. Tejan added, my logistics network serves both sides. They'll both demand exclusive service. When I refuse, they'll both attack human assets. Dr. Hejan nodded. The same with medicine. They'll demand we choose sides. They'll want our antibodies for their soldiers, but not for their enemies. Can we stop the war? Hunyo asked. No, Sunhee said quietly. They're too proud, too certain of their superiority. They won't listen to mediation from humans. We're too weak in their eyes. Then what do we do? Yenwu asked. Myung smiled. It was not a nice smile. We let them start the war, and then we make them beg us to stop it. Silence fell across the connection. Then Tejan laughed. You want to show them what happens when the boring work stops? Exactly. They don't respect us. They think we're weak. So we show them what weakness can do when it's in the right position. We show them that the galaxy runs on systems they ignored, systems that humans built, systems that humans control. Dr. Hejan leaned forward. You're talking about leverage, real leverage. I'm talking about making them understand what they missed for 100 years. While they were fighting over who was strongest, we became necessary. They can't feed their people without Tejan's logistics. They can't stop plagues without your medicine. They can't maintain order without Junho's security training. They've spent a century depending on us while pretending we don't matter. And now we pull the support, Junho said slowly. We show them what happens when the weakest species stops helping. Sunhee spoke carefully. This is dangerous. People will die. Not just warriors, civilians, children. People will die anyway, Myung replied. This war will kill billions. We can't stop that, but we can stop it from destroying everything. We can force them to face the truth. That cooperation matters more than domination. That necessity beats strength. We become the knife at the throat, Tejan said, not by threatening violence. By threatening absence, Myung nodded. We've been patient for 100 years. We've built everything they need while they weren't looking. Now we make them look. We make them see. And we make them choose between their pride and their survival. When do we start? Yenwu asked. We're already starting. Tejan, begin optimizing your supply routes. Nothing obvious. Just small adjustments that position our logistics at every critical junction. Make it so nothing moves without going through systems we control. Tejan nodded. It'll take 3 months. But yes, I can do it. Hejan, catalog every species' medical dependencies. I want to know who needs what and how long they can survive without it. Already done, Hejan said. I've been tracking this for years. Junho, identify weak points in every major military force. Not to attack them. To show them we know. To show them we've been watching. Understood. Sunhee, keep analyzing their psychology. When we make our move, I need to know exactly how they'll react. I've been studying them for 30 years. I know them better than they know themselves. Myung looked at each face on her screen. This is it. This is the moment we've been building toward. For a century, humanity has been the quiet species in the corner, the weak prey that everyone dismissed. But we were never weak. We were patient. We were learning. We were building. And now the universe is about to learn what the weakest species can do. The meeting ended. Across the galaxy, humans began to move. Nothing obvious. The Vryn Dominion struck first, destroying a Kethril colony called Sanctuary. 4 million dead in the first hour. The Kethril retaliated by taking control of 3 Vryn warships using their psychic powers. They crashed the ships into civilian stations. 7 million dead in the second hour. Within 48 hours, 12 species had chosen sides. The ancient alliances activated. Old grudges surfaced. The council dissolved as species declared loyalty to either the Vryn or the Kethril. Humanity declared neutrality. Both sides ignored this completely. On the 3rd day of war, Tharkin the Conqueror sent a message to Earth. He was the supreme commander of Vryn forces. His message was simple and brutal. Humanity will provide medical technology and logistics support to the Dominion. You have 24 hours to comply. Refusal will be treated as an act of war. 6 hours later, Valora the Mind Reader sent an identical message on behalf of the Kethril Collective. Humanity will support the collective. You have 24 hours. Refusal means you are our enemy. Ambassador Hyunwoo composed his response carefully. He sent the same message to both sides. Humanity remains neutral. We will provide humanitarian aid to refugees from both sides. We will not support this war. We call for immediate peace negotiations. Tharkin's response arrived within an hour. Then you will be treated as obstacles. The weak have no right to refuse the strong. 3 warships are moving toward Earth. Hyunwoo forwarded the message to Myung. She replied with 2 words. It's time. 3 Vrin warships entered Earth's solar system. They were massive. Each one could destroy a city with a single shot. Earth's defense fleet was tiny by comparison. 12 ships, old technology. No chance of victory in traditional combat. The Vrin commander sent a final ultimatum. Surrender. Give us your technology. Serve the Dominion. But Myung wasn't watching the warships. She was watching something else. On the other side of the galaxy, a different battle was beginning. The Kethril assault force arrived at Nexus Prime, the Council's central station. 50,000 warriors. Overwhelming force. The station should have been evacuated, but Captain Junho had refused to abandon it. He had 800 human soldiers and 200 aliens who refused to leave their posts. Against 50,000, the Kethril commander Threnix contacted Junho directly. Commander, I respect your courage, but this is madness. You cannot win. Evacuate your people. Junho's response became famous across the galaxy. You're right. We can't win by your definition. But you're about to learn that humans have a different relationship with the word impossible. The battle began. The Kethril used psychic assaults that should have shattered human minds. They projected fear and pain directly into thoughts. Soldiers from most species would have collapsed immediately, but Junho's forces had trained for this. They had practiced meditation. Mental compartmentalization, cognitive redundancy. The Kethril attacks caused pain but not collapse. The humans gritted their teeth and kept fighting. The Kethril sent wave after wave of warriors. They expected the humans to fight honorably, to meet them in direct combat. Instead, Junho used guerrilla tactics. Hit and run, ambush and retreat. They turned the station into a maze of traps. They vented atmospheres and corridors. They created choke points. They used the Kethril's own confidence against them. When the Kethril tried to use their numbers advantage in wide spaces, the humans collapsed ceilings. When the Kethril tried to corner them in small spaces, the humans disappeared through maintenance shafts. The Kethril were stronger, faster, more powerful. But the station was a labyrinth, and humans had always been good at surviving in hostile environments. The battle lasted 73 hours. The humans didn't win. They couldn't. The Kethril were too numerous and too powerful, but they didn't lose either. They held the station. They made the Kethril pay for every meter. 19,000 Kethril warriors died. 340 humans died. After 3 days, Threnix ordered a retreat. His final transmission was broadcast across all channels. They should have broken. Why didn't they break? The galaxy watched the recordings in stunned silence. The weakest species had just held off one of the strongest. It shouldn't have been possible. But while everyone was watching Nexus Prime, Myung made her real move. She released a simple announcement across all channels. Effective immediately, the Human Logistics Network is suspending all services until the Council reconvenes for peace negotiations. The galaxy laughed. For about 6 hours. Then reality hit. Tajin's network didn't just coordinate 73% of galactic commerce. It coordinated the crucial 73%. The shipments that kept civilizations alive. Medical supplies stopped flowing. Food shipments to non-agricultural worlds halted. Fuel for military fleets dried up. Rare materials for technology manufacturing disappeared. The Vrin Dominion had ammunition for 2 more weeks of warfare. Then nothing. Their supply lines collapsed without human logistics. The Kethril Collective's agricultural worlds couldn't get food to their military fleets. Their soldiers would starve in 30 days. 60 civilizations realized simultaneously that their planets would starve within a month without human coordination. The laughter stopped. Then Dr. Heejin made her announcement from Earth. All distribution of broad-spectrum synthetic antibodies has been suspended. Existing supplies will last approximately 40 days. 3 major plague zones that had been contained suddenly faced catastrophic outbreak. 2 of them were on military worlds. Soldiers started dying from diseases instead of combat. The message was becoming clear. Humanity wasn't threatening violence. Humanity was threatening absence. The weakest species was revealing that it had become the most necessary species. At Earth, the 3 Vrin warships held position in orbit. Tharkin the Conqueror prepared to demand surrender. Earth looked defenseless. Then Myung sent him a data package. It contained detailed schematics of every Vrin warship. Structural weaknesses identified. Tactical patterns of every Vrin commander analyzed and predicted. A simulation showing how Earth's nuclear arsenal, properly deployed, could create a debris field that would make the solar system impassable for a generation. And a note: we are weak. We cannot defeat you, but we are spiteful. If you fire on Earth, we will make sure the wreckage of our world costs you the war. And then we will make sure the galaxy starves and dies from plagues. The prey species has its teeth on the galaxy's throat. Test us if you dare. The warships held position. They didn't attack. They didn't leave. They just waited. Across the galaxy, civilization began to break down. Food riots started on 12 worlds. Plague spread on 7 more. Military forces ran out of ammunition and fuel. The mighty council species, who had ruled the galaxy for millennia, discovered they couldn't survive 2 weeks without the species they had dismissed as weak. Ambassador Hyunwoo sent a message to every faction, every species, every world. The council will reconvene in neutral space in 72 hours. Humanity will mediate, not because we are the strongest, but because we are the only species that spent a century learning to survive through cooperation instead of domination. He paused before ending the message. You will attend. You will listen. And for the first time in galactic history, you will hear what the weakest species has to say. We have been silent for 100 years. We have been watching you, learning you, understanding you. We have built the systems that keep you alive. And now you need to understand something very important. You thought we were weak because we couldn't break you. You never realized we didn't need to break you. We just needed to become something you couldn't break either. We are not threatening to destroy you. We are threatening to let you destroy yourselves. The galaxy is a garden. You thought you were the great trees. You never noticed that humans had become the roots holding everything together. Attend the council. Listen to what we have to say. Or watch your civilizations collapse because you were too proud to admit you needed us. For the first time in galactic history, no species laughed at humanity. The responses came quickly. Every major species agreed to attend. Some agreed because they were desperate. Some agreed because they were curious. Some agreed because they finally felt something they had never felt toward humans before. Fear. Not fear of violence. Fear of absence. Fear of what would happen if the weakest species simply stopped helping. Fear that they had built their civilizations on foundations they didn't control. In her office above Earth, Mi-young watched the responses arrive. Sun-hee stood beside her. They're scared, Sun-hee observed. Good, Mi-young replied. Fear is the beginning of respect. They need to understand that strength isn't enough. Power isn't enough. You need to be necessary. And for 100 years, while they were competing to be the strongest, we were working to become necessary. What happens at the council? We teach them. We show them what they missed. We make them understand that the galaxy doesn't belong to the strong. It belongs to those who refuse to quit. To those who build instead of break. To those who cooperate instead of dominate. And if they don't learn, Mi-young looked out at the 3 Vrin warships still holding position near Earth. Then we let them fall. Humanity will survive. We always do. That's our gift and our curse. We survive. The question is whether they'll survive with us or whether we'll be writing their epitaphs 1,000 years. The emergency council session was held on a human medical ship called Soul's Hope. It orbited a neutral planet called Sanctum 7. The choice of location was deliberate. Not a military vessel, not a station, a hospital ship. A place dedicated to saving lives, not taking them. Every major species sent representatives. They arrived angry and afraid. The Vrin came in full battle armor. The Kethril came with psychic dampeners active, not trusting each other. The Terran brought their ancient weapons. All the proud species of the galaxy gathered, furious that they needed to be here. Ambassador Hyunwoo met them in a simple conference room. No throne, no elevated platforms, just a round table with equal chairs. This alone was revolutionary. In the old council, seating was determined by rank. The strongest species sat highest. Humans sat on the floor. Now everyone sat at the same level. Tharkan the Conqueror spoke first. His voice was like grinding stone. You dare to threaten the Dominion. You will restore services immediately, or we will destroy every human world. Hyunwoo didn't flinch. Or what, Commander? You'll destroy us? Then who saves your homeworld from the Crimson Plague, currently growing in your capital city's water supply? Silence fell like a hammer. Dr. Heejin detected it 3 days ago. You have 2 weeks before outbreak. Without our synthetic antibodies, you lose 300 million citizens. Your homeworld, your families, your history, all gone because you were too proud to negotiate. Tharkin's armor plating shifted with his rapid breathing. He couldn't speak. Valora the mind-reader tried to read Hyunwoo's emotions. Then she recoiled as if struck. You're not bluffing. You would actually let them die. No, Hyunwoo said quietly. We would save them. Because that's what humans do. We save people. Even people who threaten us. Even people who laugh at us. Even people who call us weak. But first you need to understand what you failed to see for a century. Mi-young's hologram appeared in the center of the table. Behind her, data displays activated. For 100 years you measured us by your standards, strength, psychic power, technological inheritance. By those metrics, we are indeed the weakest. Sun He's hologram joined her. But you never asked the important question. Why did a weak species survive? Why didn't we go extinct on Earth when every predator wanted us dead? Captain Junho appeared, still wearing his battle-worn armor from Nexus Prime. You never wondered why your warriors need rest and we don't. Why your psychics crack under pressure and we endure. Why your ancient technology makes you powerful but inflexible, while our primitive technology makes us adaptable. Taejin materialized in the chamber. You never noticed that while you were conquering, we were connecting. While you were dominating, we were becoming indispensable. Dr. Heejin joined last. You never understood that weakness can be a weapon, because something that can't rely on strength learns to rely on everything else. The display activated, showing a century of data, human endurance compared to other species. Vryn warriors fought at maximum capacity for 20 minutes, then needed 4 hours to recover. Humans maintained 70% capacity for 8 hours, then 40% capacity for days. In a war of attrition, humans didn't lose. Human adaptability. Every human solution had 7 backup plans. Every system had redundancy. Because humans couldn't afford to rely on a single strength. When one plan failed, they moved to the next. When that failed, they improvised. Human psychology. Species that evolved as apex predators never learned to handle sustained adversity. When they faced problems they couldn't dominate, they broke. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, chasing prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. Humans never learned to quit. Human cooperation. Species that dominated their worlds developed hierarchies based on strength. The strong ruled. The weak obeyed. Humans evolved through tribal cooperation against larger predators. They developed distributed leadership. Mutual aid. The idea that groups survived better than individuals. The display showed more data. In the last century, humans had created medical solutions that saved 4 trillion alien lives, built logistics networks that fed 600 worlds, trained emergency response teams on 800 stations, developed conflict resolution protocols used in 10,000 disputes, established educational programs that taught 500 million alien students, all without recognition, all while being mocked as weak. You want to know why humanity finally spoke? Hyunwoo stood looking at each representative. Because you forced our hand. But we didn't speak to threaten you. We spoke to save you from yourselves. He looked at Tharkin. Your dominion is built on warrior pride. If this war continues, you'll fight until extinction rather than accept defeat. That's not strength. That's suicide. He turned to Valora. Your collective is built on psychic unity. If this war continues, you'll sacrifice billions for the greater consciousness. You'll kill your own people to prove a point. He addressed the entire council. You're all willing to die for dominance, but none of you know how to live for cooperation. That's why you need us. Not because we're strong, because we understand something you forgot. Silence filled the chamber. Then Valora spoke, her voice trembling. You're saying humanity has been saving us, while we treated you as inferior? Sun He answered gently. Every species has its strength. Yours made you powerful. Ours made us necessary. The galaxy needs both. Power without wisdom destroys. Wisdom without power can't protect. Together we could build something neither of us could build alone. Mi-young took control again. Here's what happens next. Humanity will restore all services under these conditions. First, the council reforms with equal representation. No species is greater than another. We measure contribution, not power. The species that feeds worlds is equal to the species that defends them. Second, all wars are submitted to mediation before military action. Humanity will train mediators from every species. We will teach what we learned on Earth. That talking is harder than fighting, but it saves more lives. Third, resource distribution becomes cooperative, not competitive. No world starves while others hoard. No species hoards medicine while others suffer plague. We share or we all fall. Fourth, military forces form a true collective defense, not factional armies. Captain Junho will help train integrated units, warriors and thinkers and builders working together. Fifth, recognition that strength comes in many forms. Physical strength, mental strength, social strength, technological strength, adaptive strength, all valued equally. Tharkin slammed his fist on the table. The metal dented. You ask us to abandon millennia of tradition, to treat the weak as equal to the strong. Yunyo stepped forward. He was small compared to Tharkin, fragile-looking, but his voice was steady. We ask you to stop confusing weakness with worthlessness. Your species is strong. We need that. When threats come, we need warriors like you. But strength without wisdom is just violence waiting to happen. You're strong enough to break things. We're asking you to be wise enough to build things. A small representative from a species called the Delani spoke up. They ranked position 600. Middle tier. Neither strong nor weak. What about species like us? We're not warriors. We're not psychics. We're not weak like humans, but we're not strong like Vryn. Where do we fit? Hyunwoo smiled. You fit where you've always fit. As essential parts of the whole. Your species excels at mathematics. You've developed the navigation systems that guide every ship in this room. You're not weak. You're specialized. Everyone is specialized. That's the point. We're not trying to make everyone equal in ability. We're trying to make everyone equal in value. He looked around the table. The old system ranked species by dominance. But dominance is only useful for fighting. What about healing? What about teaching? What about building and creating and connecting? The galaxy needs all of it, and every species excels at something. Valora spoke again. You're not asking us to give up our strength. You're asking us to add your wisdom to it. Yes, Sunhee said. Power is not wrong. Domination is wrong. You can be strong without being cruel. You can be powerful without being oppressive. That's what we're offering to teach you. Hyunwoo delivered the final statement. You have 24 hours to decide. Accept these terms and humanity will help rebuild what this war has broken. Reject them and we withdraw completely. We'll seal our borders, protect our allies, and let you tear each other apart. He paused. We won't destroy you. We'll simply stop saving you. We've survived extinction-level predators, ice ages, plagues, and ourselves. We'll survive this too. The question is, will you? The council session ended. The representatives retreated to their quarters to debate. Arguments erupted. Some species wanted to reject the terms out of pride. Others recognized they had no choice. After the session, Valora approached Hyunwoo privately. You're not bluffing. You really would let us fall. Yes, Hyunwoo said, because sometimes the only way to save someone is to let them face the consequences of their choices. Humanity learned that lesson the hard way. We almost destroyed ourselves 3 times before we learned to cooperate. We can't force you to learn. We can only offer the lesson. What if we refuse? Then in 1,000 years, a human historian will write about the day the Ger in the deliberation chambers. The galactic species tore themselves apart with debate. The Vryn warriors gathered in their section. Tharkin faced a challenge from his second-in-command, Vorkul. Commander, our pride demands we refuse, but our children demand we survive. What is honor worth if our civilization dies? If our homeworld falls to plague because we were too proud to accept help? Tharkin looked at his warriors, strong, proud, undefeated in battle, and completely helpless against a disease they couldn't punch. I have led you to victory in 100 wars, but I cannot lead you to victory against starvation, against plague, against the simple fact that we need others to survive. The Kethril Collective experienced something unprecedented, their unified consciousness fractured. They had always thought as one, but now discord rippled through their psychic links. Can supremacy be wrong if it leads to extinction? Valora shared her experience with the collective. She showed them what she had sensed in Hyunwoo's mind. Beneath his determination was genuine grief at the thought of their destruction. The prey species mourned predators. What did that make them? What did that make the Kethril? The Toran consulted their ancient AI systems, the machines that had made them powerful. The AI delivered an unexpected verdict. The human proposal optimizes long-term survival probability to 94%. Current trajectory shows 12% survival. Logic supersedes tradition. Except, species after species debated through the night, pride against survival, tradition against necessity, the image of who they thought they were against the reality of who they actually were. 23 hours after Hyunwoo's ultimatum, the council reconvened. Ambassador Hyunwoo stood before the assembly. His hands were steady, but inside he knew humanity's fate hung on this moment. If they rejected the terms, humanity would survive. But the galaxy would burn, and humans would have to watch billions die. Tharkin rose first. The chamber fell silent. Every species held their breath. The Vryn Dominion accepts. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Tharkin continued, his voice like grinding metal but touched with something new. Humility. But know this, Ambassador. We do not accept because you forced us. We accept because you showed us something we had forgotten. He looked at his warriors. The strongest warrior is not the one who never falls. The strongest warrior is the one who rises after every fall. Humanity has fallen 10,000 times on your brutal world, and you have risen 10,001 times. That is a strength we respect. That is a strength we need to learn. Valora spoke next. The Kethril Collective accepts. We have touched humanity's collective consciousness across your networks, your cities, your ships. You are a species of individuals who somehow create unity without losing yourselves. You are separate but together. We thought we were superior because we think as one. But we see now that thinking as one made us brittle. You think as billions and yet cooperate. That is a power we never understood. One by one, every species accepted. Some with grace, some with grudging respect, some with barely concealed resentment. But they all accepted. Because the alternative was extinction. And for the first time in galactic history, every species sat as equals. 3 months passed. The galaxy didn't change overnight, but the tremors continued, spreading through every system, every world, every life. Captain Junho became Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense, the first human to hold such a position. His first act was revolutionary. He didn't segregate species into pure units. He created mixed species teams. A Vryn warrior named Kravik was assigned to a human squad. On their first mission, a tunnel collapsed. Kravik used his immense strength to hold the tunnel open while the humans evacuated civilians. The effort exhausted him completely. He couldn't move afterward. The human medic Mina saved his life. Kravik's regeneration had been poisoned by chemicals in the collapse. Without treatment, he would have died. Mina's human adaptability and medical knowledge neutralized the poison. They became the galaxy's most famous partnership. Strength and endurance. Power and precision. The unstoppable and the unbreakable. Dr. Heejin established the Galactic Health Cooperative. Species that had competed over medical resources now shared knowledge freely. Kethril empaths learned to detect disease through psychic sensing. Melkari regenerative biology was synthesized for emergency medicine. Human adaptive immunity became the template for universal vaccination. A plague struck the Delani homeworld. It should have killed millions. The cooperative response stopped it in 2 weeks. Kethril detected the disease. Melkari provided regenerative support. Humans created the synthetic antibodies. Vryn provided security and quarantine enforcement. Together, they saved a species that would have died alone. Tejin created the cooperative trade network. No more hoarding. No more species starving while others prospered. Agricultural worlds fed industrial worlds. Technology worlds supported developing civilizations. Resources flowed where they were needed, not where power demanded they go. For the first time in recorded history, no world in council space experienced famine. Ambassador Hyunwoo trained the first class of multi-species mediators. They learned human techniques for conflict resolution. Patience, listening, finding common ground. Understanding that most conflicts came from fear, not hatred. A border dispute between the Xyloth and Corvani empires would have sparked war under the old system. Under the new system, mediators intervened. They didn't take sides. They helped both species understand each other's fears and needs. The dispute was resolved in 3 days. No shots fired, no lives lost, just talking, listening, compromising. The galaxy was learning. The reformed Galactic Council met for the first time on Earth, in Geneva, where humanity once tried to unite itself. Now it united the galaxy. The symbolism made every human cry with pride. Their small, weak species was hosting the most powerful beings in the galaxy, as equals. The council chamber was built with input from every species. Vryn strength, Kethril psychic coordination, Toron technology. Melkari artistic design. Human architectural integration. Every species contributed. When it was completed, it was the most beautiful building in the galaxy. Hyunwoo gave the opening address. 800 species listened. For 100 years, humanity sat in silence while you debated the fate of worlds. We learned your languages. We studied your cultures. We mapped your strengths and weaknesses. And we learned the most important lesson of all. He paused, looking at the assembled beings. Warriors and psychics and technicians and healers and builders. All together. All equal. Survival is not about being the strongest. It's about being necessary. It's about finding your place in something larger than yourself. It's about understanding that alone we are powerful, but together we are unstoppable. Look around this chamber. Vryn warriors stand beside human diplomats. Kethril seers advise Toron technicians. Melkari healers work with human doctors. Species that fought wars now build peace. This is not weakness accepting strength. This is strength discovering it was incomplete. The speech concluded with words that would be taught to every child in the galaxy. Today, we don't celebrate humanity's rise. We celebrate the galaxy's awakening. The universe trembled not because the weak became strong, but because the strong finally learned to listen. The prey finally spoke, and the predators finally heard. 5 years after the Council reformed, the galaxy faced a new threat. An ancient threat. Unknown signals appeared at the galactic rim. A massive fleet of automated warships, remnants of a civilization that destroyed itself millennia ago. The AI controlling them had one directive: eliminate all organic life. The old council would have fractured. Species would have fled or fought alone. Fear would have scattered them. But the new council stood united. Supreme Commander Junho coordinated a defense of 800 worlds. Vryn's strength on the front lines. Kethril psychics coordinating communication and strategy. Toron technology providing weapons. Melkari healers saving the wounded. Human adaptability filling every gap. Solving every unexpected problem. The automated fleet was vast. The council forces were outnumbered 50 to 1. In the old galaxy, this would have been impossible to win. But the galaxy had learned humanity's secret. You don't survive by being the strongest. You survive by refusing to quit, by adapting to every setback, by standing together when standing alone means death. The war lasted 3 years. Billions fought. Millions died. But the galaxy won. Because they fought as one. Because they learned that cooperation beats domination. Because the prey taught the predators how to survive. 10 years after humanity spoke, Ambassador Hyunwoo gave his final address before retiring. He was elderly now, gray and tired, but his eyes were bright. When humanity joined the council, we were told we didn't belong among the strong. Perhaps that was true, but we belonged among the survivors, and in the end, survival matters more than dominance. We were the weakest species. We became the necessary species. Now we're simply one species among many, each contributing what we can. That's the lesson. Not that humanity is special, but that every species is special. Every being has value. Every strength matters. The universe trembled when we finally spoke. Not because we threatened it, but because we reminded it of a truth it had forgotten. Cooperation is not weakness. Gentleness is not fragility. The quiet voice in the corner might be the